I'm just going to tell you a story about greed, family betrayal, and karma hitting harder than anyone expected. This actually happened to me 6 months ago, and I still can't believe how it all went down. My name is Sarah. I'm 32 years old, and I was married to my husband David for 7 years. 7 beautiful years that ended in the worst way possible. But this story isn't just about losing him. It's about what happened after, when his own mother showed me who she really was. Let me take you back to the beginning so you understand the full picture. I met David when I was 23. He was 25, working as a software engineer at a tech startup. I was finishing my nursing degree. We met at a coffee shop, totally by accident. He spilled his coffee on my textbook, and we ended up talking for 3 hours straight. It sounds like something from a movie, but it really happened like that. David was amazing, kind, funny, always thinking about other people before himself. Within a year, we were engaged. Within 2 years, we were married. His mom, Patricia, seemed happy for us at first. She smiled at the wedding, hugged me, told me I was part of the family now. But looking back, I can see the cracks that were already there. Patricia was a widow. David's father had passed away when David was only 15. She raised him alone, and I think somewhere along the way, she started seeing him more than just her son. He was her whole world, her project, her retirement plan. She never said it out loud, but I could feel it in the way she looked at me, like I was stealing something that belonged to her. The first few years of our marriage were mostly good. David had a great relationship with his mom, and I tried my best to get along with her. We'd have dinner at her house every Sunday. She'd make pot roast, David's favorite. She'd ask about work, about our lives, but there was always this tension underneath, like she was waiting for me to mess up somehow. David worked hard, really hard. The startup he joined early on ended up doing incredibly well. By the time he was 29, he was making serious money. We bought a nice house, nothing crazy but comfortable. We talked about having kids. We were planning our future together. And David, being the responsible person he was, got a life insurance policy, a big one, $5 million. I remember the day he told me about it. We were sitting in our living room and he had all these papers spread out on the coffee table. He explained that he wanted to make sure I'd be taken care of if anything ever happened to him. I laughed it off. We were young, healthy, nothing was going to happen. But he insisted. He made me the sole beneficiary, not his mom, not split between us, just me. He said I was his wife, his partner, and if something happened, he wanted to know I'd be okay. I signed the papers without thinking much about it. We filed them away and forgot about them. Life went on. We celebrated birthdays, anniversaries, took trips together. David got promoted. I moved to a better hospital with better hours. Everything was going according to plan. Then, one night, everything changed. David was driving home from work. It was raining, the roads were slick. A truck ran a red light and hit him head-on. The police said he died instantly, that he didn't suffer. That's supposed to make it better somehow, but it doesn't. Nothing makes it better. I got the call at 11 p.m. I was already in bed, half asleep. The officer on the phone was kind, but the words didn't make sense at first. "There's been an accident. Your husband. I'm so sorry." I remember dropping the phone and just sitting there in the dark, waiting to wake up from the nightmare, but I never did. The funeral was 4 days later. Those 4 days are a blur. I barely ate, barely slept. I was moving through water, everything slow and heavy. Patricia took over all the arrangements. I was grateful at the time. I couldn't think straight, couldn't make decisions. She picked the casket, the flowers, the music. She wrote the obituary. She did everything. At the funeral, she stood next to me in the front row. She cried, loud and dramatic. People kept coming up to her, hugging her, telling her how sorry they were. Some people hugged me too, but it felt like I was invisible, like I was just standing there while everyone mourned her son, not my husband, her son. After the funeral, people came back to our house, Patricia's house technically, because she had moved in with us 2 months before David died. She said her apartment lease was up and she needed a place to stay while she looked for something new. David couldn't say no to his mom, so she'd been living in our guest room, and honestly, it had been tense, but I dealt with it because I loved David and I knew his mom was important to him. That night, after everyone left, Patricia sat me down at the kitchen table. Her eyes were red from crying, but there was something else in her expression, something cold. She said we needed to talk about the house, about David's things, about what came next. I told her we could talk about it later, that I was too tired, too destroyed to think about any of that, but she wouldn't let it go. She kept pushing. She said David would have wanted her to take care of things, that I was young, I'd move on, I'd probably get married someday, but she'd lost her son, her only child. She'd lost everything. I should have seen it coming then, but I was too deep in my grief to understand what she really was saying. The next morning, I woke up on the couch. I'd fallen asleep there in my funeral clothes, too exhausted to make it to the bedroom I'd shared with David, the bedroom that now felt like a tomb. Patricia was already awake, sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee and a notebook. When I walked in, she looked at me with this expression I'd never seen before, cold, calculating. She said we needed to talk, really talk this time. I poured myself coffee and sat down across from her, waiting. She opened the notebook and started listing things. David's bank accounts, his retirement fund, his shares in the company, the house, the cars, his personal belongings. She had it all written down, organized into categories. She must have been working on this for hours, maybe even days. Then she said it. She said that as David's mother, she was entitled to half of everything, that legally she had rights, that I needed to be fair and think about what David would have wanted. I just stared at her. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My husband had been dead for less than a week, and she was sitting here with a notebook, dividing up his life like it was a business transaction. I told her that everything belonged to me, that David and I were married, that legally everything was mine. She didn't like that answer. Her face changed. The fake sadness disappeared, and what was left was pure anger. She said I was being selfish, that I never really loved David the way she did, that I was just some girl who got lucky, and now I was trying to take everything that should go to his real family, to her. I stood up and told her to stop, that this wasn't appropriate, that we were both grieving and we needed space. But she kept going. She said I was a gold digger, that I'd probably been waiting for this to happen, that I'd manipulated David into putting everything in my name. That's when I asked her to leave. I told her she needed to go, that she could stay somewhere else while she figured things out, but she couldn't stay in my house and talk to me like that. She laughed, actually laughed. Then she said something I'll never forget. She said this was her son's house, and she had more right to be here than I did, that I was the one who needed to leave. I walked away. I locked myself in the bedroom and called David's lawyer, the lawyer who'd helped us with our wills and the life insurance policy. I explained what was happening, and he told me to stay calm. He said legally everything was mine. Patricia had no claim to anything. David and I were married, and in our state, that meant I inherited everything automatically, the house, the accounts, all of it. And the life insurance policy was ironclad. Only my name was on it. She couldn't touch it. I hung up, feeling a little better, a little stronger. I had the law on my side, but I still had to deal with Patricia. The rest of that week was a nightmare. Patricia refused to pack. She refused to leave. She walked around the house like she owned it, moving David's things into the guest room, taking his clothes out of our closet, boxing up his stuff like she was preparing to take it all with her. I told her to stop. I told her she had no right to touch his things. She ignored me completely. Then, on Friday morning, I came downstairs to find all of my clothes piled up on the front lawn. My toiletries, my shoes, my work uniforms. Everything, just thrown out there like trash. Patricia was standing in the doorway with her arms crossed. She said she'd given me a chance to leave with dignity, but I'd refused, so now she was making me leave. She said the house was hers now, and if I didn't go voluntarily, she'd call the police and have me removed for trespassing. I was shaking. I was so angry I could barely see straight. But I called her bluff. I told her to go ahead and call the police. I'd be happy to explain to them that I was the legal owner of the house and she was the one who needed to leave. She went inside and slammed the door. I heard the lock click. I stood there on my own front lawn, surrounded by my clothes, and I just started laughing. Not because anything was funny, but because the whole situation was so insane I didn't know what else to do. I called the police myself, explained the situation. They sent 2 officers over. I showed them my ID, the deed to the house with my name on it, my marriage certificate. They knocked on the door and made Patricia open it. They explained to her that she had no legal right to kick me out of my own house, and that if she didn't return my key and allow me back inside, they'd arrest her for illegal eviction. Patricia cried. She played the victim so hard. She told the officers that I was trying to steal her dead son's house, that I was a horrible person who never loved David. The officers didn't care. They told her again that she needed to let me back in and that she needed to leave the property within 24 hours or they'd come back and remove her themselves. Finally, she opens the door. I walked past her without saying a word and went straight upstairs. I locked myself in the bedroom again and just cried. For David, for the life we'd planned, for the family I thought I'd had. That night, Patricia left. She didn't say goodbye. She just packed her things and disappeared. I thought that was the end of it. I thought she'd finally realized she had no claim, no control, no power over me anymore. But I was wrong. 2 weeks later, I got a letter from a lawyer, Patricia's lawyer. She was suing me. She was claiming that David had promised her half of everything, that there were verbal agreements, that she was entitled to compensation for helping raise him alone after his father died. It was all nonsense, completely made up. But now I had to deal with it. I hired my own lawyer. We prepared to fight. My lawyer was confident. He said Patricia had no case, that her claims were baseless, and that the judge would throw it out. But it still cost me money, time, and emotional energy I didn't have. The case dragged on for 2 months. 2 months of depositions, paperwork, court dates. Patricia showed up to every hearing with tears in her eyes, playing the grieving mother. She told lies about me, about our marriage, about David's wishes. She claimed David had told her he was going to change his will to include her. She claimed I'd isolated him from his family. None of it was true, but she said it anyway. My lawyer destroyed her in court. He presented the life insurance policy, the will, the deed to the house, all with only my name. He showed evidence of our joint bank accounts, our shared expenses, our plans for the future. He called witnesses who testified that David and I had a strong, loving marriage. He proved that Patricia's claims were completely fabricated. The judge dismissed the case. He told Patricia that her grief didn't entitle her to property that wasn't hers, and that she was wasting the court's time with frivolous claims. He ordered her to pay my legal fees. I thought it was finally over. Then, a week after the court case ended, I got a call from the life insurance company. The $5 million policy was ready to be paid out. They just needed me to come in and sign some final paperwork. I went in the next day, signed everything. The money was deposited into my account within 48 hours. $5 million. More money than I'd ever imagined having. And that's when Patricia found out. I don't know how she found out. Maybe she'd been keeping tabs on me. Maybe someone told her. Maybe she just guessed. But 3 days after the money hit my account, she showed up at my door. She was different this time. Not angry, not crying. She was calm, almost sweet. She said she wanted to apologize, that she'd been out of her mind with grief and she'd done things she wasn't proud of. She said she hoped we could move past it, that we were family and David would have wanted us to stick together. I didn't trust her for a second. I stood in the doorway and told her I accepted her apology, but that I thought it was best if we didn't stay in contact, that too much had happened and we both needed space to heal. That's when her mask slipped. She asked me point blank about the life insurance money. She She said she knew about the policy, that she knew how much it was for, and that she deserved at least half, that David would have wanted her to have it. I laughed. I couldn't help it. I told her that David had made his wishes very clear when he put my name on that policy, and that after everything she'd done, after trying to kick me out of my own house, after suing me, after lying about me in court, she had the nerve to show up asking for money. She started yelling again. All the fake sweetness evaporated. She said I was a thief, that I'd stolen her son's legacy, that I didn't deserve a single dollar. She said she'd find a way to take it from me, that she'd make my life hell until I gave her what she was owed. I told her to leave. She refused. I pulled out my phone and called the police again. She finally left, but not before screaming at me from the driveway that this wasn't over. That was 3 months ago. She hasn't contacted me since. My lawyer sent her a cease and desist letter warning her that any further harassment would result in a restraining order. I haven't heard from her since then. So here I am now, 6 months after David's death. I'm still grieving, still missing him every single day. The money doesn't make it better. It doesn't bring him back. But it does give me options, security, the ability to build a new life without constantly worrying about how I'm going to survive. I've thought a lot about Patricia, about why she did what she did. I think she really believed that she was entitled to David's life, to his money, to everything he'd built. I think in her mind, I was just the woman who got in the way of her plans. She raised him, sacrificed for him, and she expected a return on that investment. But that's not how love works. That's not how family works. David chose to marry me. He chose to build a life with me. He chose to put my name on that policy because he loved me and wanted to take care of me. Those were his choices, and they were clear. Patricia forgot something important. She forgot that her son was a grown man who made his own decisions. She forgot that marriage means something. She forgot that you can't control people, even your own children, and you can't claim ownership over their lives just because you're related to them. When she kicked me out of my house that day, she thought she held all the power. She thought she could bully me, intimidate me, force me out of the picture so she could take what she believed was rightfully hers. But she forgot one crucial detail: the life insurance policy, the $5 million that had only one name on it: mine. I've used some of that money to pay off the house. Some of it is invested for the future. Some of it I've donated to causes David cared about, and some of it I'm using to build the life David and I talked about, even though I have to build it alone now. Patricia got nothing. Not the house, not the money, not David's things. Nothing. And that's exactly what she deserved after the way she treated me during the worst time of my life. People ask me if I feel guilty, if I think I should have given her something, just to keep the peace. The answer is no. Not even a little bit. She showed me exactly who she was when I was at my lowest, and I believe her. She wasn't grieving. She was calculating. She wasn't mourning her son. She was trying to cash in on his death. I miss David every day. I wish he was here. I wish none of this had ever happened. But I'm grateful that he had the foresight to protect me, to make sure I'd be okay. And I'm grateful that I had the strength to stand up to his mother when she tried to take that away from me. If you're going through something similar, if you've lost someone and the family is circling like vultures, here's my advice. Know your rights. Get a lawyer. Don't let anyone bully you or guilt you into giving up what's legally yours. Grief is hard enough without people trying to take advantage of you in your weakest moment. And make sure your own affairs are in order. Make sure your will is clear, your beneficiaries are listed, your wishes are documented. Don't leave room for interpretation or family drama. Protect the people you love by making your intentions crystal clear. David did that for me, and even though he's gone, that final act of love is still protecting me today. If this story resonated with you, hit that subscribe button.